Hello everyone, Samutari here, and so I had a little inspiration to do this little series, not even a series, but I do have some people that ask me questions occasionally, and I just don't know really how to answer them, but I've been thinking about them more and more, and I was like, I might as well just answer them all in a video. For some odd reason, these are some things that I'll occasionally talk about in my videos, but I can't really think about them much. And with the upcoming wilds, I kind of thought it was a good idea, so I went ahead and made a list of the most common questions that I often got or that I saw running around the Monster Hunter community, and so I figured I would tackle them because why not? It'd be a lot of fun. Because I've been doing a lot of these hub quests, and really I can't use them for like any sort of content, but I also just don't want you to necessarily miss out on all this stuff while I've been doing these hub quests and getting these new weapons and whatnot. So I figured I could use the footage for something. So I went ahead and did this. So we got 11 questions today. Some of them are dual-ended, I guess. They have pros and cons, that sort of thing. Or if I love something, then they also ask if I hate something, that sort of thing. Nothing too complicated, though. Or at least I thought so until I had to answer them. And then I realized just how complicated they were. But yeah, so let's just go ahead and get into the questions. So the first question is easy enough. What Monster Hunter games have you played? I'm actually relatively new to Monster Hunter. There are just so many games. You know, you have One, you have Dose, which I don't think was ever localized. You have Freedom, Freedom 2, Freedom Unite, you have Generations, you have 4 Ultimate, you just have all these other things. That's not including like the online, which was like Frontier and something else. And then you have, of course, Rise, the upcoming Wilds, you have World, you have Stories, you have all these. Anyways, my point was that there's a lot of Monster Hunters, but I have barely touched them. Monster Hunter Rise was my first ever Monster Hunter. My friend Roto bought it for me as a gift because he thought I'd really like the game and he wanted other people to play with on his Switch. So he kind of bribed me by buying me the game, and I actually did really end up enjoying it, and I played most of my time with him because I didn't really have anybody else that was really into Monster Hunter, honestly, and plus I just really enjoy playing with him in general. So him and I made it through the vanilla campaign, and then he bought me Sunbreak as a gift because there was a holiday coming up and stuff. So he bought me Sunbreak as soon as I had finished Rise, and then we played through the DLC together. So I have played Rise in the DLC all the way through, minus like one monster. I still have to beat Amatsu on the Switch, but Roto's been telling me to hold off until my build's a little bit better. But I will eventually do that this year, and then I will have completed Sunbreak in totality. Let's see. And then I have played Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which has been kind of my obsession lately. So the reason I haven't really been recording too much because I've been dedicating my time to Generations Ultimate, which is a completely different world. And then I have been playing the app by Niantic, which is Monster Hunter Now. So those are really the only ones I've actually played. However, I do own Monster Hunter World, and I own Monster Hunter Stories too. I also do plan on playing Frontier at some point, or finding a way to access that. I'm part of a Discord where you can get on a private server for it. I just haven't done it yet because I obviously just don't want to dedicate my time to it when I don't really have the time to dedicate. So I really haven't taken a moment to set that up yet, but that is something that I'd like to look into in the future if it's still possible by the time I get around to it, because I know these communities tend to die and things get a little wonky. But yeah, so all in all, I've really only played 3 Monster Hunter quote-unquote games, 2 games, 1 app, but I do plan on playing more in the future. I really want to do World as soon as I'm done with my playthrough on Rise. It's just I want you guys to be able to experience that with me. And then I've heard that Monster Hunter Stories is really, really good, and that's very similar to Pokemon. I've read in different forums that it's really nice, so I'm actually looking forward to it, but I understand that it's going to be a very different experience, which is why I'm kind of saving it for last, because, I don't know, I mean, much as I love cutesy little games, I would just much rather experience, like, the Monster Hunter I'm used to first, and then get into something like stories like a lot later, if that makes sense. As far as my favorite Monster Hunter game, that's actually very difficult because, again, I've barely dipped my toes into the world of Monster Hunter. And the thing is like, I love all the games that I've played, I just love them for different reasons. So, obviously with Rise, I love the updated graphics, I love the wire bug system, which gives the battle, like, just the battling, it gives it such fluidity, and I feel like it just gives you so much more variation in how you can actually conduct these fights. Between the guarding and the whizzing around to dodge and just all these other things, and even just the monster mounting and aka the wyvern riding, I just find that this system is just so much more fluid, so much more enjoyable than when I go back to, you know, Generations Ultimate. Now in Generations Ultimate, I've been playing that like crazy. And the thing is despite the fact that it looks older, I love how colorful it is. I love how much life all the villages have, despite the fact that it's older and despite the fact that it's not as story-driven. And even though the battle is a lot more clunky, there is something very charming about like a more, I guess, limited game style. It's the same sort of like charm that I feel like when I'm playing an older game, like a super retro game, and it's really hard to explain. Generations Ultimate makes me feel nostalgic. Like, it makes me feel nostalgic for a game that I never owned and never played, which is, I think is really crazy. But it does feel like something that I had, but in, you know, the nostalgia that I feel feels like something like that I had as a child, that I'm kind of like revisiting, that I've always adored. Like, it kind of just, I don't know, it warms my heart in that really weird nostalgic way, and I can't really understand it because, again, I've never had this game before. I only bought it last year, and I'd never played Monster Hunter prior. So, but yeah, there's aspects of Generations Ultimate that I love, which is obviously the old style Monster Hunter, and there's aspects of Rise that I really like too. So this question is, oh gosh, it's definitely a loaded barrel. I mean, I guess it's so complicated. So what elements from other Monster Hunter games, but more specifically Rise, do you want to follow into Wilds? The thing is I've mostly been trying to keep my experience when it comes to Wilds. I've been trying to keep it spoiler free. I've learned, as someone that has been gaming since I was like a super young child, and with the evolution of like how they tease games and show you the development of games, I have found that the best way to really handle these sorts of situations, especially if you're super excited for a game, is to not follow every little aspect of it. I feel like it takes out a lot of the wow factor by the time that you get the game, and also it gives you just too much opportunity to decide that you're disappointed in something. So, like, if I were to watch every trailer about, like, Wilds, and if I watched, like, every development stream about Wilds, you know, I feel like there would be nothing that would surprise me, because they would show off, like, darn near every map. They'd show off nearly, you know, every weapon, every whatever. I kind of see snippets of it on Reddit here and there, but same with, like, the character creator. I mean, obviously the stuff that I have seen I've really liked, but like I said, the more that you often see, you know, that you like, there's just as much opportunity that you're going to see something that you don't like, and I feel like it could really spoil what you want for the game, and it'll basically just decide whether or not you're really going to like the game kind of before it even happens. At least that's kind of like my philosophy on the whole thing. So when I am really hyped for a game, I mostly try to keep myself spoiler-free, even in the development. That way I don't go in with this idea of, oh man, I already hate that they implemented this, or, oh man, I already hate that they implemented that. I don't want to have that sort of mindset. So with Wilds, though, what I want them to implement, and like I said, some of this might sound crazy, because you might be thinking to yourself, you know, Sam, they've already announced that that's gonna happen. But the thing is you have to remember, I have not really watched a lot of the developer things, so I don't know what's going to be in Wilds, what's not going to be in Wilds, minus the few things that I've seen. Let's see. Obviously, we already know that the animal mounts are going to be a thing, so that would, that is something from Rise that I think was like a huge upgrade. Playing through Generations Ultimate and just having to run everywhere and not really having any sort of fast travel method was just super freaking annoying. So the animal mounts, having that extra battle, companion, as well as that that way to navigate the maps faster, especially since it's going to be open world. That is something that obviously I am happy is in there, and I would have asked for anyways. I really want Wilds to be as story-driven as Rise was. The thing is like, Rise had a very simple story, but it had a story nonetheless. And then when it came to the Sunbreak DLC, there was even more story. I really do like this this pattern of Monster Hunter having more stories, and I want them to keep that up, because I think that stories are very important in games, and those are what keep me interested. I have noticed that when it comes to Generations Ultimate, that my enjoyment of it isn't necessarily less, but that I keep yearning for a story. I find myself reading every little quest plaque because I'm looking for just any sort of lore, any sort of like thing that I can use. I'm literally looking for anything, any little tidbit of some sort of story somewhere that I can talk to others about, or that I can kind of like think about. So that is something that's actually very, very important to me. So I definitely want to keep up that pattern of a story-driven series of quests. Housing is something that is like my guilty pleasure. I loved the fact that in Monster Hunter Rise and in the DLC, you literally had 2 houses that you could decorate. Now, I know that every Monster Hunter has a house that you have. So the housing system really isn't anything new, but I really would like them to do something different with it. If they could not only allow you to decorate, but even take it one step further with allowing you to basically redecorate your entire interior, that would be amazing. Like, instead of just offering like small little carvings or little tapestries, or even just letting you put up your own photos, if you could go one step further and use like the scraps that you have from kills, or that you can trade in, etc. If you could use all those extra monster parts that you are never going to use for anything else, if you could use those to make furniture and then just have like themed housing, that would be amazing. Like, can you imagine someone just laying in their freaking Magnum Aloe bed that has like a headboard that's like constantly burning with like purple flames or something, or have a freaking Zenogre like lampshade that's like constantly crackling with electricity. Like, I think that would be just so cool. And you could create like little plushies of them or whatever and put them on your bed or put them on your couch. Like, that's something that not only, so the housing decoration system, I want it to follow over from Rise, but I want them to improve upon it. I want further housing customization. I think that would just be so fantastic. And like I said, it would just, I would spend all my time just grinding to get the perfect fit for my bedroom. Like, there would be just no end to the amount of that game I would play just to have, like, the perfect house. So, never underestimate me with being able to decorate houses. Don't even ask me how many, like, apartments and stuff I have on alts on Final Fantasy that are all, like, decorated and themed differently. On top of that, I really would like another form of collectible. So in Rise, you have the relic records and you have the rampage messages. These obviously are like the notes that you would find in any RPG that kind of like go to your notebook, and then you're able to like piece together some more lore. These are just extra bits of information that kind of like make the world feel more alive and like deepen the lore of the area that you're in. I really want more of those. The reason why I want more of those is because it really gave me a reason to explore the world. Because let's be honest, no matter how expansive and no matter how beautiful these maps are, unless you are looking for materials or trying to complete a quest, there really is no reason to explore, because your goals are hunt monster, kill little monsters, or get plants, mushrooms, bugs, whatever, right? And most people are just wanting to complete the quest because you have a time limit. So there's not really a lot of incentive to explore outside of if you need specific materials or if you're grinding for something very specific. But I felt like the relic records and the rampage messages, not only did I get super excited when I first found one, because I didn't even know those were a thing, not only did I get super excited when I first found one on accident, but then when I realized, like, oh, I can get special items by collecting them all, and oh, they tell a story when you collect them all, it just really made me want to explore these maps. Like, every crook, every cranny, finding every secret passage. I would get so excited when I would find, like, a crawl space I never noticed before, right? So these are just, like, little aspects of things that I think a lot of people take for granted, I guess. But I think that they should definitely bring back in Wilds, because I think if they didn't do that, then it would be just such a missed opportunity. And like I said, it just really gave me that incentive to want to explore the maps and really just be, just check out everything that these developers put together, in order to find all these relic records and all these rampage messages. So, I definitely think something like that should return. Also, the subcamp system. So like I said, the mounted companions that allow you to travel a lot faster across the maps, that is absolutely essential, I think, for any Monster Hunter game moving forward. But also in Rise, there was the subcamp system. So you would find a couple spaces on the map, and they would allow you to place down a subcamp after you completed a small quest. I definitely think that the subcamps should not be available right away. I definitely think players should have to continue to work for them. But they were always really simple quests, and I agree that they should remain little simple quests. It's kind of like, hey, if you want this camp, you're going to have to work for it, despite how tedious it is. And so I think that that should definitely continue to be a system. And I just loved it because these maps could be so big at times, and sometimes you just wanted to get somewhere super fast. You didn't want to have to travel across the whole map. It's very convenient for, like, speedrunners and stuff. But again, it's more like just like a quality of life thing. So I definitely think the subcamp system needs to make a return, because honestly, like, I can't see myself playing like all these like huge maps without any sort of subcamp system like later on in the campaign. So what elements am I hoping that they leave behind from the Rise series, or just in Monster Hunter in general? I think the obvious answer from older Monster Hunters is they should never ever go back to the maps that are just segmented and you have to go through loading screens just to go to each and every zone. There's no reason for them to do this anymore, and obviously people really like the open world aspect, so I don't think they'd ever do this for any reason, because I think it'd be hard for us to go back when it comes to technology and how far it's come. Like I said, there's actually no like reason for this development-wise. It just wouldn't make any sense, so obviously that's something that I hope that they never go back to. What do I want them to leave behind? I want them to leave behind the stupid Spira birds. So this was something that I really just never knew until I started playing Generations Ultimate. I kind of just, because I started with Rise, I kind of just accepted the fact that Spira birds were just like a fact of life, you know? So obviously whenever you have to eat before every quest unless you're just a masochistic maniac, because it gives you all sorts of buffs. It gives you extra health, it'll give you like extra stamina, all this other stuff. So you obviously want to eat before any mission, because otherwise it's just suicide. But the thing is like, the Spira birds, you need those in order to maximize your health and stamina. And also it gives you other buffs. You can freaking max your attack and your defense and all that other stuff. So the Spira birds have like a purpose. They're a sort of extra buff in the world. But the thing is in order to maximize your bars, you have to go and collect them, and you know, later on, especially in Sunbreak, you are going to want to maximize these things. And I found this absolutely absurd after I started playing Generations Ultimate, because there is no such thing as Spirit Birds. There is nothing like that in the game where you need to maximize stuff. And I was actually kind of worried at first because I was like, oh no, I ate my meal, but there's like no Spirit Birds. Like, oh, what am I gonna do? But then I realized later on, as you unlock more meals and stuff, you don't need Spirit Birds. Your bars are maxed from the beginning. Your bars are maxed from the beginning for the most part, minus like if you get like a low buff or something. And there are items that can increase that, and you don't even have to worry about Spirit Birds. You don't have to waste all that time exploring the map to find these Spirit Birds. You know, you don't have to sniff them out and go and collect them in order to have, you know, adequate health, adequate, you know, stamina. And so the more that I played Generations Ultimate, the more I appreciated Rise for its fluidity, its, you know, graphical superiority, you know, but then there was also parts where I'm like, where did they think that this was a good idea? And the Spirit Birds was one of those things where I'm like, where in the developer's mind did they go, ah yes, we're gonna waste hunters' time by making them go and collect these Spirit Birds. And luckily, the Spirit Birds seem to be like a Rise exclusive. I think that they are virtually hated across the community. I've not heard anybody say, you know, I really love collecting Spirit Birds. Like, I've never heard anybody say that. And I probably would not believe them even if they did say that, because I just think it's an asinine system, and I just do not understand it. Now that I understand how unnecessary it is, I hate it every time I have to do it. And like I said, whenever I'm playing with my friend Roto on the Switch, you know, he immediately has to start every hunt by going and collecting these Spirit Birds, and it's annoying, honestly. Like, it's just highly annoying, because I'd rather just get to the hunt, you know, find the monster, get to the hunt, get into the action, but instead you're wasting all this time trying to find these Spirit Birds. And yeah, so it's annoying. It's something that I think is completely unnecessary, and so I would be very upset if they brought a system very similar to that back into Wilds. The other thing that I hope that they leave behind are the Rampage quests. So, I don't know, there's mixed things on the Rampage, obviously. There are some people that really love tower defense games. I don't like anything that's like super tactical. I don't like anything that's like, you know, you have to protect yourself against waves upon waves of monsters. I don't really like that, especially in Monster Hunter, where the monsters are super beefy, and you're having to obviously like fight them on, you know, these massive scales, and protect a singular thing that is so easy to get to. The Rampage quests, as most of you have seen, they give me extreme anxiety to the point where I can hardly speak, because I am just so focused on passing the Rampage. And I obviously, like, I already have, like, a bad experience with it just because I didn't know what the Rampage was. When I was playing Rise on the Switch, I kind of did things out of order, and I ended up having to face like an Apex monster even before I had done like the basic Rampage and stuff, and I had no idea how to do the Rampage because I'd never been given the tutorial, having skipped like the main thing for the Rampage. So I really, really, really despise them. They have always had a negative impression on me. I don't like tower defense. I don't like how you are basically reliant on other people unless you are just insanely good at the game, which I am not. I don't like anything about it. I like the idea behind it, I guess. I think it'd be neat for its own sort of like spin-off mode. I mean, you could literally just have a Rampage mode as kind of like an extra mode in a Monster Hunter game, and that would be fine. But to make it absolutely mandatory is just crazy to me. Especially when you add in the Apex monsters, which I think are absolutely horrendous. So, I never want to see anything like the Rampage ever again. You know, I do like the fact that there are Rampage weapons that are added into, like, the big boss fights later on. Like with Ibushi, Narwa, and Gyasmagorm and stuff. Like, I love that there are those. But other than that, I just find the Rampage to be completely unnecessary. I think that it was something that they were trying out, which is fine. But like I said, I think it should be kind of like a mini game almost. I think it should be like an optional, additional mode if you want the special weapons. But outside of that, you don't need the weapons. Obviously, the weapons could have an incentive of being like stronger or just having like a special buff or something. But outside of that, I just don't find them to be necessary. So if they did bring anything like the Rampage back in Wilds, then yeah, I hope it would be kind of like an optional mode of play, not something that is mandatory, and then they just give players that do it like an extra incentive, like by giving them like a special weapon or armor set that kind of shows that you suffered through that mode. Otherwise, I would not wish that upon anybody, because I personally do not think it is fun. I think it's hard enough to find people to help you with it, let alone anything else. So yeah, if the Rampage could just disappear forever, that would be freaking fantastic. So again, this question's kind of hard to answer just because I've tried not to look too much into Wilds. But the aspects that I'm really excited about is I really want to see just the way the new mount is going to be utilized, the Raptor mount. I know I've read the name a few times, but I just can't really think of it at the moment. But I like the fact that we'll be able to bound between like rocks and be able to glide and just be able to do all this. I like the fact that it's going to have multiple weapons, weapon slots, so that you can change between the weapons. But I just want to know what that's going to feel like. So that's like really exciting, just knowing how that's going to feel. Because I really do like the Palamute, but I do feel like it was very underutilized. Running across the map was really fun, but having to navigate the various terrain with the Palamute, unless there was actual like ivy or something for the Palamute to climb, the Palamute kind of felt clunky, and even the jumping with the Palamute was just not as like fluid as I really wanted it to be. So I'm just really excited to see the way in which the new mount kind of changes all that up. And how it's just gonna be an improved version of what the Palamute started, you know? Now, as far as like the maps and what they offer, I'm kind of just curious about the way that they're gonna be doing quests, because I guess like you're gonna be on this constant exploration, so the hub is going to be on the map that you're like actively in at the time. I'm really not sure how they're going to do that. So I'm really excited about how they're going to utilize quests and explorations, but at the same time I'm kind of wary about the way that they kind of described it, because it just makes it seem like the map's going to be a lot smaller than what we thought, and that they're basically going to focus more on the different weather patterns, which is going to determine what the terrain is like. But I'm really not sure. Again, I haven't really looked much into it, so I'm just not sure how they're actually going to do it. But it sounds like, you know, you're going to have this massive map. It's going to be like one of the largest maps with the different sections and stuff. And that you're going to just constantly be on this map where you're going to grab your quests from. And then you're going to be able to fast travel to like different places or whatever. And then pick your quests. Something about like you're going to be able to choose quests based on like what monsters on the map at the time. Now, I'm more curious about that. I wouldn't say that I'm most excited about it. I'm just more curious about that aspect and how it's actually going to feel and work. Kind of same with the mount, but the mount is something I'm very excited for. And then the thing that I'm most excited about is I want to see what the story's about. I've heard that it is going to have its own original story. Something about like the seasons causing some like scarcity in resources or something, but I am really looking forward to what original story that they create. I'm really hoping that it's a lot more in-depth and that it's a lot more involved than previous Monster Hunters, that it's something that even rivals like Rise, which Rise had an okay story, Sunbreak had a fantastic story. So I'm really hoping that they don't just save the good story for the DLC, that we really just get a banger of a story like right off the bat, and that it's really good. But the thing that I'm actually most excited about is just the fact that the game's crossplay. That's super important to me, because like my friend Roto, he plays on a PlayStation, and I have an Xbox. Now, I have an Xbox and a PC and a Switch. The thing is I don't think a game like Wilds would work on a Switch, obviously. I think with its scale and stuff, it's supposed to be, obviously, for like next-gen consoles, which they've already said it's going to be released on. So, obviously, I wouldn't be able to play with them on the Switch. I really don't want to get it for Xbox because I don't have the Series X right now. I just have my old Xbox One, and I've basically just started moving over everything to PC gaming. And so it's just one of those things where, you know, he doesn't have a PC, I do have a PC, and the fact that it's going to be crossplay is just freaking fantastic, because that way I don't have to worry about upgrading my system, or maybe buying a system just so that we can play together, or that we'd have to play separately and then just talk about it, which would be very, very sad considering he's my main Monster Hunter partner. So just the fact that it's crossplay, which will open up a whole bunch of new avenues for people that I can play with and interact with and meet, like, I just think that that's really exciting. So that is just something that I'm the most excited about, is just the fact that it's going to be crossplay across all platforms, which I think is fantastic, and I wish that they would have done something like this a whole heck of a lot sooner. Choosing a favorite monster is actually really hard because I'm really not sure whether I should choose it based on, like, whether they're fun to fight or whether I just really like their design. Also, I can't really just kind of, like, settle on one monster. So here are my top 5. I have a very love-hate relationship with Rajang. I love Rajang in just how fucking goofy this guy is and just how ridiculously powerful he is. And I love to murder him because I hate him so much. So it's like one of those things where it's like I hate him because he scares me and makes me scream a lot, because it's terrifying to fight, but at the same time, like, the rush that you get when you finally take one down, you're like, oh, hell yeah. And so, like, I love the feeling of defeating one, I hate fighting one, and overall, I just think the design is really, really goofy, and because of my personal story with Rajang, I feel like, again, I just have this love-hate relationship. I love the way that I was introduced to Rajang, but yeah, I definitely hate fighting him, but then love the result when I have this really awesome weapon due to defeating Rajang so many times. Luna Garon, I really love Luna Garon because I am obviously partial to wolves, if you've seen my thumbnails and obviously my profile picture and stuff, because I'm a filthy furry. But I love Luna Garon just because wolves outside of dragons are like my favorite thing in the world. So Luna Garon, I just loved the cutscene with Luna Garon. I loved the introduction of Luna Garon whenever I finally got Sunbreak and I downloaded it and stuff. Just the introduction and the design of the character and even just the armor and stuff, like, I really adore Luna Garon. Mizitsune, again, it's just kind of like the weeb in me coming out, I guess, but I love Mizitsune's design, I love their theme, and the fact that their attack is like bubbles just makes me laugh. I don't know, something about the bubbles. And I love the fact that there's healing bubbles, attack bubbles, like, there's just so many different things, but mostly it's just the theme and the design. Like, Mizitsune is so beautiful, and that theme is just freaking phenomenal. Like, I love Mizitsune. I will say that Mizitsune is a pain to fight, though. And the longsword for Mizitsune, I think all Mizitsune weapons are gorgeous. But the longsword for Mizitsune, really, really love it. Can't wait to have it in my PC playthrough of Rise, like, just because it is one of my favorites. And yeah, I adore it. Just very majestic, very beautiful, like, love Mizitsune. Another one of my favorites would have to be Magnamalo. Magnamalo, obviously one of the big bads of Monster Hunter Rise. Honestly, again, it just kind of comes down to the design. I love Magnamalo's intense design. I love its blast ability, like, just the fact that it's just non-stop carnage. And again, I just have a personal, like, love-hate relationship with Magnamalo, where it's kind of a fun fight, but later on it's a very frustrating fight. Magnamalo is an absolute powerhouse, and again, I love the powers, I love the theme, I love the design, but I am terrified to fight this thing. So like I said, it's kind of like with Rajang, there's just like this love-hate relationship, but I think there's a little bit more love when it comes to Magnamalo. And then finally, I would say that Teostra is one of my favorites, and the reason why is, I don't know, so I guess it's because it mixes basically my two favorite things, very bestial looking monsters and dragons. I don't know, something about the lion dragon with horns, something about it is just so appealing to me. Kind of reminds me of a chimera a little bit, and I really adore chimeras. But yeah, I really like the whole lion/chimera looking monster, but the fact that it's fire. I am very partial to anything that has like a flame ability or a blast ability, just because fire is probably one of my favorite like elements. Just because I don't know, I've always been a firebug. Like whenever my mom was having somebody go out and start a fire to burn the garbage or something out on the farm, then I would always volunteer because I wanted to set the fire. No, I've never been arrested for arson, but I think it kind of surprises people that that's never been a thing because I do adore fire. I love having candles in my house. If, you know, like I said, if I had my own flamethrower, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so Teostra, like I said, super cool design. Love the aesthetic of it. Again, just another powerhouse. Hate to fight it though. Like, terrible to fight it. It just never stops moving. Just very annoying. But man, those fire attacks and those blasts, like, just amazingly powerful. So, can't even diss it. But I fell in love with the design. And that's the thing, like, Elder Dragons are cool, but they really are just, they're dragons, you know? There are some that stand out to me, obviously. There are some that have, like, really amazing designs. Valstrax is really cool. You know, Valstrax is really, really cool. Freaking, what is it, Chameleon? Chameleon or whatever. I don't know. The Chameleon one. All I know is he's annoying. Freaking Kushaladora is really cool. And I really did like, you know, Ibushi and Narwa and stuff like that. Like, I really do like a lot of the Elder Dragons. But Gormagala is fantastic. But I guess, like, the more I thought about, like, what is my favorite Elder Dragon, the more I was just like, I just really like Teostra, because Teostra stands out. Because all of them are just dragons. They are obviously dragons. But then you have an Elder Dragon, and it's Teostra, who is more beast than dragon, and it's still considered an Elder Dragon, and I don't know, it snagged my attention. So I would say that those are my top 5 monsters. I mean, and that could come to change, because the thing is I haven't really experienced a lot of different monsters, because Rise and Sunbreak is my main game, and you know, I haven't really played much of freaking Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. I'm only on like 4-star hunter quests right now, so there's still a whole roster of monsters I have yet to experience, and I haven't even played World yet because I want to experience that all with you. So I mean, that list might change, but for right now it's Rajang, Lunagaron, Mizitsune, Magnamalo, and Teostra. I think that's my pretty solid list. Now, hate is a very strong word. Cough, cough, Kezu. Yeah, no. Kezu, literally my response that I wrote down for this question is, depends on the game, but ... Kezu. It really does depend on the game, because when it comes to least favorite monster, I think that all the monsters really, really look, they actually look really, really cool. I don't think there's a monster that I look at that's like, oh, they look really stupid and I hate them. I don't think I've found one like that yet. I probably will find one like that eventually, but right now I have not found one. So really it kind of came down to, like, what monsters do I hate to fight? And actually, okay, so this is gonna make some people laugh probably. My least favorite monster of all time is this guy. I feel like I never knew pain until I had to fight the Nibblesnarf. And 1, I hate the name. 2, the design. Oh man, the design is really actually kind of interesting. I think it looks stupid until it kind of like dives out of the sand, and then I love its underbelly. This thing is the worst to fight. I hate it. So, and some people are like, oh man, it's about the same as the Cephadrome. No, it is not as bad as the Cephadrome. The Cephadrome I could get to come out of the sand. The Nibblesnarf, it's armored everywhere. Like, really, the only places you can kind of hit it are the gills. Sometimes you can hit the nose. Sometimes you can hit, like, the side of the body. But it's, like, to me, fighting this thing felt like I never knew where the armor was. I never knew where the armor was because you can't really tell like what's armor and what's flesh, and the stuff that looks like it's fleshy because it's moving like flesh is just really fucking annoying, because then suddenly you hit it and your blade's bouncing off of it. You get it really early in your questing, and so like it's just one of those things where none of your weapons are strong enough to pierce it. Everybody says that if you manage to like blow it out of the sand, you can fish it up with your fishing rod. And so I was so excited to fight this thing. And then I never got the chance to actually like fish it up, and I was so upset by that. I was so distraught that I never got the opportunity to do that because I couldn't get the mechanics to work to do it. And, you know, obviously it's a skill issue, but at the same time, like, it just made me very distressed. And like I said, trying to fight this thing, it was so armored, it took me so long, and this thing was kicking my ass. And I never thought that something that looked so doofy, that looked so goofy, I never thought something that looked so silly could kick my butt like that. And so, like, and something with such a stupid name as the Nibblesnarf. And so literally I told my friend Roto, I was like, I am so angry at this monster. I was like, I never want to fight a Nibblesnarf ever again. It is the worst fight I've ever had in my life. His response was, how could you be mad at something that has the name Nibblesnarf? And I said, watch me and give it time. If you ever fight this thing, you'll hate it too. And that is like just legit how I felt. Like, yeah, watch me. It'll happen. It's not fun. So yeah, I cannot stand this thing. And, so that is actually my top, like, most hated monster. Kezu kind of is the same because I really just hate how armored Kezu is for something that looks like foreskin. Like, this thing is disgusting. So one, the design is disgusting, but I think that's cool about it. However, I hate its little butthole tail and the fact that it's armored, and I hate its stupid electrical attacks. Like, the whole thing about it, I hate it. So I hate fighting it. So Nibblesnarf and Kezu are definitely two that are on the list. Any of the crab monsters, so like Daimyo Himitar and Shogun, whatever the thing is called, I hate those. I hate them again for the same thing. They're just way too armored. They are not fun to fight. And then for the 5th spot, I kind of like had a hard time picking one for a 5th spot because there's quite a lot that I don't like. I couldn't decide whether Seething Basilgeuse is one of them. Seething Basilgeuse is definitely a hot contender just because, again, that fight is not fun. There's nothing about that fight that's short of, like, pure pain. However, I do love the weapon, so I ended up having to farm that monster quite a bit. Seething Basilgeuse was on there. Aurora Somnicanth was on there just because I despise Somnicanth as is, but Aurora Somnicanth is just worse. Let's see. Violet Mizitsune is really bad, but I do love the design, so I just couldn't bring myself to put it on the list, even though that fight is something that I just wish never existed. Espinas was in there, just because I've never had a good time fighting Espinas. Same with Astalos. Now, the Astalos fight in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, for some odd reason, is not that bad. However, in Rise, well, in Sunbreak, the Astalos fight is, like, horrible, and I hated fighting Astalos every single time in Rise. And you'd think it'd be easier, but for some odd reason, I feel like Astalos is a lot easier in Generations Ultimate, and they just beefed him up in freaking Sunbreak, so I feel pretty conflicted on that. But those are just some of the monsters I can think of off the top of my head that I actually, like, despise. You're obviously gonna hear me say, like, oh, I hate fighting so-and-so, and oh, I hate fighting so-and-so. But there's a difference between just complaining about monsters that are kind of tedious and actually hating a fight. So yeah, Nibblesnarf, number 1 offender on my list of monsters that I despise. Kezu's on that list, along with Daimyo Himitar, and then the rest of it goes to the crab monster, and I really do think that the 5th spot would have to go to Seething Basilgeuse, just because, like I said, none of that fight is fun, and it just makes me want to cry just thinking about it, honestly. Favorite and least favorite NPCs isn't very hard just because I've played so few Monster Hunter games. So, I mean, for me it's really, really easy. Favorite NPCs would obviously be Hinoa and Minoto. I love the Wyverian twins in Rise. There weren't really, I mean, there's a lot of notable characters in Sunbreak, but honestly, I just kind of preferred the Kimura people just because we spent the most time with them, I felt like. And they weren't so, like, posh and kind of annoying as the characters in Sunbreak. But yeah, I just really loved Hinoa and Minoto. I love their role in the story. I really just love their different personalities as twins, and I just love how much they care for each other. And then on top of that, they are just gorgeous characters. I actually have acrylic standees of them because I think they are so pretty. And you'll probably hear me call them my waifus a lot just because I do think that they are gorgeous. And I'm just very fascinated with Wyverians in general. So another one of my favorite NPCs would be the Yukumo chief in Generations Ultimate. She is a Wyverian. She is also very beautiful. And I just love how she has so much confidence where she's like, you will help us. And she doesn't even, like, let you say, she doesn't even question it. Like, are you going to help us or can you help us? She's like, you will help us. You will stay in the house that we gave you because it's very nice. Like, I love her attitude where she's like, yeah, you're gonna do this. And your character, of course, doesn't even question it. So I love her personality. I think it's fantastic. I guess in the same likeness, I could also put the Kokoto chief on there just because I think he's pretty funny for an old dude. But, he just doesn't have the same charm as the Yukumo chief, so I can't really, like, say much about that. Now, if we are wanting to talk about my absolute favorite NPCs, though, I mean, let's be honest. My favorite NPCs are going to be Mufi and Poogie. Anytime you give me the ability to have a pet of any kind in a game, I am already sold. But Mufi and Poogie from Generations Ultimate literally make my world go round. These things are adorable, and I love the fact that you can change them into little costumes, you can pick them up and carry them around like a baby, and when you go to sleep in your bed, they literally curl up next to you. It is the sweetest thing. So if we are talking, I mean, I could sit there and say that Hinoa and Minoto are like gorgeous creatures that I want very badly. However, in reality, I just want a Mufi and a Poogie. You know, like, just to dress in cute little costumes and carry around like a baby in my house. That is what I want. You know, I would give up, you know, the sexiest woman alive just to have a cute little lamb that I could just take care of and dress in cute little costumes. Like, I'm just a sucker for that sort of thing. So those are my absolute favorite NPCs. Now, least favorite NPCs, honestly, that one's actually really, really hard because there aren't very many characters I've encountered that I just cannot stand. I know some people would say that the Palicos are annoying because of the way that they speak, but I just kind of, like, ignore it for the most part. And no, I don't like it because I'm a furry. I actually don't like the way they talk at all. I think it's punny, but it's annoying. Like, I hate it when people talk that way, let alone when, you know, creatures talk that way. I don't know, it is really annoying. I also hate the fact that they meow every 5 seconds. However, like I said, over time, it is something that I have managed to learn how to tune out. So really, my criteria for least favorite NPC is, like, kind of hard. I know that there's this one girl in Sunbreak that has a very, teehee, kawaii nature that she tries to be, like, super cute whenever she's talking to you, and occasionally she'll slip up and say something violent. I feel like they were really just trying too hard for that character. She's just a quest giver, so, I mean, I don't know, I don't really remember her because she's not that important. You can use her as a follower, but I kind of just forget who she is. She's kind of annoying, but again, I don't really know her name, so I'm not going to say she's, like, my least favorite, just because if I can't even remember her, she obviously didn't make that bad of an impression, because I'm bound to remember people that leave both a good and bad impression. Definitely my least favorite NPC, and I'm going to probably get some hate for this from somebody, is Master Utsushi. He's your trainer, in Monster Hunter Rise, and I hate the way he talks. He's like, yo, Ace, let's go thrash some things. He's so typical weeaboo anime nonsense, and I hate him. I hate the way he talks. I hate the fact that he interrupts my quests all the time, even though I've turned off the tutorials, because I actually know how to play the game already. I hate the fact that he introduces arena quests, which I don't like. I hate the fact that he introduces you to the rampage, which I also don't like. So literally, there is nothing good about Master Utsushi. He's just a mandatory fact of life. I hate that he literally, like, teaches you how to use the camera by saying, take a picture of me. Man, I am so handsome. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like you. So, yeah, he's just kind of gross. He's a gross guy. He's a gross guy, and I don't like him. I don't know. He's just, and I find his voice annoying, too. So, but honestly, outside of that, I have not found another NPC that I actually can say I don't like, or that's left an impression enough that I don't like them. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if I had to say if I didn't like a NPC, then yeah, it would just definitely be Master Utsushi. If someone is trying Monster Hunter for the first time, I would definitely say that Rise is probably the place to start. Now, the reason why I say this is because I've watched a lot of videos on World, and while World is graphically superior, I'm just thinking in terms of, like, gameplay. And everybody has said that Rise basically made combat just so easy because of the Palamutes and the wire bugs, right? There are things about Rise that are obviously very annoying. The Spear bugs being one of them. You will never have to deal with that in a previous Monster Hunter game. It is just specific to Rise. It is very annoying. However, you know, when you consider just the rest of it, like I said, the easy combat in comparison with the wire bugs and the Palamutes and just all those, and even just the rampage weapons and things like that. I definitely think that Rise, how do I put this? World was them trying a bunch of new stuff, and Rise kind of goes back to very classic Monster Hunter feel, is what a lot of people have told me, and having played Generations Ultimate, I kind of agree with that myself. So, I would say that Rise is easy because it does not have the Hunter arts, and instead you have your switch skills. So I would say, Rise is easier in terms of how the combat is utilized. I would say that it's easier in terms of combat due to the wire bugs and the way that the wyvern riding works. I would say that the Palamute makes it a lot more tolerable to go through these large maps. And again, I like Rise because it has a story, it has great maps to explore with perks to actually going out and exploring. And I just like the way that you are introduced to the various monsters. I feel like its pacing is really, really good. So the combat is fluid, it looks really good, its pacing is really steady. And so I feel like if you are entering Monster Hunter in any other way, if you've never played a Monster Hunter game before, then Rise would be the place to start. And when you think about it, even though you can get other Monster Hunter games on the Switch, you can only get Monster Hunter Stories in Generations Ultimate. Generations Ultimate is old-style Monster Hunter, and while the community is still active, you're gonna have a hard time maybe picking up some other newer Monster Hunter games because of the way the old ones kind of function and the things that you're kind of used to. And you could honestly get bored with newer games because they are so easy if you start out with the hard Monster Hunter games first. So you might run into a spot where either the game's too hard and then you find yourself not interested in Monster Hunter at all because it is too hard and too punishing. Or you end up loving it, go to newer games, and then find that newer games aren't challenging enough for you, and then you have a hard time enjoying the newer games. So, due to the easiness of it, due to the fluidity of it, and just due to the overall accessibility of it on the Switch, on top of being available for PC and other consoles, like I said, Rise to me is just the obvious choice of what I would recommend for first-time, gamers wanting to get into Monster Hunter. Because obviously the app's not going to actually be like Monster Hunter. It's not going to prepare you for playing a Monster Hunter game. And like I said, there's all the challenges of going from an older Monster Hunter game to a newer Monster Hunter game, which could either make you love the series or hate the series. So I feel like Rise is definitely your best introduction, only because World was so vastly different. And some people, like I said, it is good, but at the same time, I just feel like Rise is a more accurate depiction of what I envision Monster Hunter to be. And I just think, like I said, the easiness of it is a good way to kind of work you up into the harder battles and getting used to Monster Hunter, and it makes it so that it's enjoyable to work your way through Monster Hunter. But again, that's just kind of my opinion based on the couple of games that I've played, so obviously opinions are going to vary per person. As far as like what advice I would give new Monster Hunter players, the most important one, and it's going to be super cliche, it's just a game. Like, I have so many times I'll play with Roto, and he's definitely a lot more temperamental than I am, which most of my gamer friends are. But the thing is I go into a game to relax, and so I try not to take things so personally. Obviously, I'm going to be very upset if I set myself to accomplish a goal, and then I'm not able to accomplish that goal. I used to get really angry at Sea of Thieves, and I would get so angry at Sea of Thieves that, my ex-wife literally took my game one day and, like, smashed it, because it made me so angry. And, I do not feel like any game should ever, make you reach a point where you become an unbearable human being. I do not think a game should ever make you reach a point where you are just seething with rage to a point where you're practically inconsolable. I do not think a game should make you reach a point of rage where you are going to destroy your property and or other property, other people's property. I do not think that is healthy. At that point, I do not consider you a gamer. I consider you a sort of like, almost like an addict and or something else, and you clearly have a problem, and I feel like you should work on that. But yeah, definitely Monster Hunter is just a game, and the thing is it's all about trial and error. You are going to run into people that are going to die, and they are probably going to cost you a mission or two. You are going to fight a couple of bosses where you are going to fail. You are going to find a lot of the mechanics and sit there and scream and say that, maybe in your head, hopefully in your head, that these mechanics are stupid, that they are bullshit, that they are unfair, right? You are going to get angry at this game because there is no way to play this game without royally getting messed up in some of these battles. So my biggest advice to new Monster Hunter players is that the game is punishing, but it is also very rewarding. It is so cool to see all these different monster designs. It is so worth it when you are finally able to make that weapon that you've been wanting to make for so long, or upgrade for so long. It is so cool to get to that point where you can have all these different layered armors and have your perfect fit from the monster that you've spent so many hours grinding for that one part to complete the set. Like, there is just so much that is rewarding about the series, but you have to get through the punishing part of the series first. So all in all, like I said, be kind. Remember that this is just a game. Do not take it so seriously. With that in mind, have fun, and if you're not having fun, put it down, that would be my advice for Monster Hunter players. I would say another piece of advice for those that are worried, that look at Monster Hunter and go, oh man, is it like Dark Souls or whatever? You can learn this. Whether or not you think you can learn this. For some, it's going to take more time than others. But here's the great thing about Monster Hunter. There are so many different weapons, and they all play differently. Maybe you are not good at close range fighting. You know, maybe you are not good at being up in the monster's face and smacking it. But that's why there are ranged weapons. You can still do so much damage with a ranged weapon while you have a friend that can keep the monster distracted close up. You know, there are weapons that are more aerial attack, which means you're always up in the sky, being super floaty and, you know, frustrating the monster that's trying to get to you. There are play styles for every sort of person. So if right away you're playing with like Sword or Shield, or you're playing with Longsword, and you're just like, man, I really hate this. This does not feel good. Try a different weapon, because sometimes a different weapon, or even just swapping up your skills so that you're using a different skill, sometimes swapping your skill or swapping your weapon will make all of the difference in the world. Okay? I guess my other piece of advice is, yes, loadouts are important, but they are not nearly as important as you would think. You do not need to be a perfectionist in this game. You know, you do not need to do anything more than just go in, you know, pick your favorite weapon, pick your favorite armor, and just go at it, okay? Yes, there's strategy to help you have a better time while fighting, but ultimately just go and do the things that you like. That's what Monster Hunter, I think, is about outside of the main point, which is hunt big monster, you know? So yeah, it's just something, just have fun with it. Have fun with it, enjoy yourself, and just remember that it is just a game, and that, you know, if you're having a bad time, set it down, walk away, come back another day, and give it a go. Maybe watch some tutorials or some videos, you know. It is all about trial and error, and that means you are going to mess up, but in messing up, you're going to learn and you're going to get better at it, okay? And like I said, anybody can learn to play this game. It does look like it's super punishing, and it does look like it's super complicated, but I can assure you it is not nearly as complicated as it looks, and if I can learn how to do it, then you can learn how to do it too, okay? Alright, that would be my advice for new players. So, my most memorable moments in Monster Hunter. There's a couple that I can think of. The Rajang story is one of my absolute favorites, and I know that I told it multiple times already, but I'll tell it again, now that I'm not, like, focused on really doing anything at the moment, other than just grinding. But, so, my most memorable moment with Rajang was the first introduction I had to Rajang. So obviously in Monster Hunter Rise, if you've never discovered a monster before, on the map where they show all the monsters walking around and like where they are on the map, if you've never seen a monster, it'll show a giant question mark. Now, Rajang kind of gets introduced like super late into the series, so at this point I had seen Elder Dragons. Like, I had seen Elder Dragons, I had fought Chameleos, I had fought Kushaladora, I had fought Valstrax, like, I had fought all these huge, like, monsters. I had fought the bosses, I had already beaten the game, right? So, this is just one of those things where it's like, I had beaten everything I thought up until this point, minus the Elder Dragons. So when I saw this question mark, I'm thinking to myself, this must be an Elder Dragon, you know? And I'm kind of excited, because you don't really run into, you know, Elder Dragons outside of urgent quests past a certain point, so I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, an Elder Dragon in the wild, this is so cool. But I was also kind of thinking maybe it was a variant, you know, maybe it was a Gold Rathalos or a Silver Rathian or something. So I was kind of just excited for what this was. Well, I was playing with Roto, and my friend Roto, he already knew what this monster was, and he went, ew, why is that on the map? And that's all I heard him say. And I was like, yeah, there's a monster on here I've never seen before. And I told him what zone it was in. And it was like at the top of one of the mountains. And I was like, yeah, I've never seen that monster before. I wonder what it is. And his response, and he always knows how to get me, his response was, don't worry about it. And the thing is like, I hate it when people say that. Don't ever tell me, oh, don't worry about it. Because even though I probably would have just left it alone, the fact that you said don't worry about it means that now I have to worry about it. Like, because one, I'm autistic, two, I've got anxiety. So telling me not to worry about it suddenly makes me go, oh, I gotta know what this is, right? It's just like my curiosity is piqued, but also I feel like I'm going to like miss out if I never figure out what this thing is. And even though I'm probably going to discover the monster later, you know, it's probably going to be introduced some way or other, the fact that I would have missed it in that moment and never known what it was, I don't know. Something in my mind's like, girl, we'll regret this if we don't figure out what this monster is, right? So then I said, come on, dude, you know, tell me what it is. Stop being an asshole. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. And he kept saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Right? And he's just being coy. You know, he likes doing that because he knows he'll get me going. Because I'll be like, no, fucking, you know, tell me. You know, and I'll start getting really frustrated with him. And then he kept going, no, don't worry about it. You know, just egging me on, right? And I was like, I'm gonna go find it, dude. I gotta see what this is. And his response was, okay, have fun. Don't cry to me when you get killed. And I'm thinking, I'm not gonna die, dude. Like, this thing, I'll just run away, you know? And I'm kind of thinking, like, why am I gonna die, right? So now my curiosity is even more piqued, because not only will he not tell me this monster's name, or what it is, but he also says I'm basically instantly gonna die. So then the daredevil part of my brain said, ha, challenge accepted, right? So I go up to this mountain, and all I see is this really sleepy, chonky ball of fur. And I'm laughing because I realize it's just a giant monkey. Okay, and this thing, I don't know, for some odd reason it kind of looked small when it was laying down, but I literally said, really? This is what you told me not to worry about? And he was like, yeah, I told you not to worry about it. And he's playing it off, right? And I was like, oh my god. I was like, this is what you had me be worried about? So I literally go up to it, and my dumbass decides to bonk it with my weapon. I even said bonk when I hit it. I was like, haha, bonk. This thing stood up so fucking fast. And when it stood up and it looked at me with those beady little red eyes, and it screamed at me, and its fur flared to life, right? I have never screamed so loud in my life over a fucking video game. I howled with fear, right? I can't even describe the scream that I scrumped, which is what I always say. The scream that I scrumped, or the scream that I scrumped. I literally howled with fear at this thing because it scared the shit out of me. And Roto starts dying of laughter. He is cackling because now I'm bounding down the mountain and I'm thinking, I'll just outrun it, right? I'll just outrun this thing. And it shoots its fucking hyper beam laser at me, and it takes down like 80% of my health. And I'm like, oh shit, oh fuck, I am going to die, right? And he's like, oh, how's it going? You know, and he's taunting me at this point. He's like, how'd it go? Did you like finding that monster I told you not to worry about? And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I'm sitting there like, no. And I kept saying, I'm gonna die. And I'm screaming the entire time. And he is he's about to pee himself. He's laughing so hard, right? So I finally get away from him. Like, I finally get away from the monster. I finally get away from Rajang, because it was Rajang, of course. And it's like, I finally get away from Rajang. And I'm like, what the hell was that? And he's like, I told you not to worry about it. And I was like, no! And then, like, during the fight with whatever monster we were supposed to be fighting, Rajang started coming, and I said, no, it's on its way again! I was like, it's coming this way! And he's like, oh, your best friend's back! And I was freaking out. Because I was like, what are we gonna do? You know? And he's like, no, it's fine. We'll be alright. And I was like, no, we won't. It's death. It is death incarnate. It has come for me. But yeah, so that's why I have a love-hate, like, with Rajang. I bully it on purpose, and I hunt it on purpose, for really just making me feel like the biggest pansy on the planet, because I screamed so much when I first met it. But also I do actually just think it's a really cool monster. That is one of my memories with Monster Hunter. The other memory I have with Monster Hunter is, I would have to say, it definitely has to do with Valstrax. So Valstrax is very similar with the Rajang thing in a way, except I didn't scream. I just was baffled and astounded and horrified. So what happened with Valstrax was, one night I told Roto I was just busy. I told him I just could not play Monster Hunter because I was going to be going to bed early. And then I decided that I was not going to go to bed early. I just couldn't sleep. And so I thought to myself, I saw that Roto was still on Monster Hunter. And so I was like, oh, I'll join him, right? Or no, I told him I was logging out for the night. That's what it was. So I told Roto I was logging out for the night because we had been playing Monster Hunter. And I just hadn't disconnected the lobby yet or whatever. This is back before we realized that if you disconnected the lobby or whatever, or ended the lobby, that one person would get kicked out or whatever. So Roto's like, alright, well, I'm going to go on some missions then, you have a good night or whatever. So I guess he hopped in on a random mission, or had been hopping in on random missions and just hadn't realized that I was just still there. And so at some point, I kind of was like, well, shit, I can't sleep, And I was like, and it wasn't really that long after we had stopped playing. And I was like, I'll just hop in for a couple more missions, maybe that'll make me tired and then I'll go to bed, no big deal. So I respond to his hub request because he was already in a mission. And I was like, oh, I'll just join him on this mission. And I thought to myself, maybe it'll make him happy. He'll be like, oh my gosh, you surprised me. Even though I already know that he's not like that and he would never do that. I just thought to myself that it was kind of cute in my head. And I was like, he'll be so happy that I joined him and he'll be like, you're back, I don't know. I was really hyping myself up there, And, so I hop into this mission. It was in the Shrine Ruins, and it was towards the back area with the stagnant, like, muddy river water or whatever. It's usually, like, where you fight Magna Mallow and Zinogre and all them. But anyway, so I go to the lake, and I see Roto, but I don't see the monster. And I'm seeing this giant, question mark, because I've not encountered this monster. So I knew it was an Elder Dragon, because I hadn't really been looking at the mission before I picked it. I just kind of picked it, ate my food, and left. I knew it was an Elder Dragon, but I see Roto just kind of standing there in the middle of this lake, and I don't see the monster at all. I have no idea where this monster is. And I just see Roto turn and look at me, because I'm standing there on the river bank, and he's in the middle of the river. His character turns and looks at mine. I went to go send him a gesture, like wave or whatever, and all of a sudden I hear this whistling noise. And then I hear the biggest, like, crash I had ever heard, and there was this massive crimson explosion, and Roto, who was at full freaking health, just instantly got carded. He went from 100 to 0 in like 2 freaking seconds. Because it was Valstrax that just literally crashed on top of him. Now, did I distract him? Yeah, I probably did, but at the same time, if you're already fighting Valstrax, you kind of just know that you probably shouldn't look to see why your friend is there. But that's just me. I would totally ignore everybody showing up. I'd be like, cool, fucking help me, But yeah, no, instead Roto turned to look at me and then just got completely obliterated. And then I ended up fighting Valstrax long before I should have been able to. So I had some experience, and I actually had some Valstrax material long before I was supposed to. I think I actually got a Valstrax weapon because Roto was grinding Valstrax at the time, farming for those materials. So I got to help him with that for a little bit, and so I had Valstrax stuff probably before I should have, but it was pretty cool. So yeah, so Valstrax is another one of those like memories for me, and it was just funny because I just remember his character turns, looks at mine, and I'm thinking, hi friend, and then just, just massive explosion, and just Roto's just dead. And I'm like, oh well shit, I just got him killed. Yeah, he was like, he even like had me call afterwards, and he's like, why are you up? I'm like, aren't you happy to see me? And he's like, why are you up? Like, not even a, yeah, I'm happy to see you, just, why are you up? And I'm like, I helped you kill that dragon, be nice to me. I'm trying to think what else. yeah, another one of the memories that I have with Monster Hunter is for Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. So essentially, I bought it on sale because after I decided that I actually liked Rise, I did want to try other Monster Hunters, and so I saw that the Switch was having a sale on Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. It was $7, and I'm like, okay, it was like $7, or it was either $7 or like $11. It was one of the two. And no, I'm not just referring to the gas station, but I mean it. It was literally only like anywhere between $7 and $12. It was super cheap. And I really felt like I couldn't pass up that deal, And I was like, I really do like Monster Hunter Rise. I would like to try some of the older Monster Hunters. I know they're gonna be harder. I know they're gonna be a bit more clunky, but at the same time, I feel like as a retro gamer, I'll be able to overcome. And so I just kind of bought it, and I was like, even if I don't like it, I'm only losing like, $12 or something, so really just not a bad deal. And if I do like it, then I win because it was only $12. So, so I downloaded it, and I told Roto about it. I was like, hey, I downloaded Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. It's on sale right now. And Roto said, I've never played that one. And I said, well, would you be willing to play it with me? And he's like, yeah, I guess so. Besides, it's cheap, so I'll try it, right? Well, I was kind of too scared to try it on my own, and so I asked Roto if he'd be willing to kind of play it alongside me, because we wanted to do like the solo quests first before we started the online play so that we could get a feel for it. So we started choosing so we went in, we made our characters, we did the solo play for a while, and we chose the gathering quests to start us off so that we could get used to like the mechanics, the controls, all that. So we both go into this mission, and mind you, we're playing separately. We're just doing the same mission so that we can talk to each other while we're both doing the same mission, and we can kind of compare notes or whatever. So we go into this mission, and Roto's like, oh, we need bug nets. And he's like, okay. And we had to get 20 immortal moths. And so I had kind of fucked around with the crafting before the mission had started, and so I had a crap ton of bug nets. I had like 10 old ones, 10 bug nets, 20 mega bug nets, whatever. I had a lot, and all this other stuff. Roto kind of took it upon himself to just use the ones that they gave you for like the quest supply, and so we're going through this, and he's like, where the hell do I find these immortal moths? And I told him, where the butterflies are flying around in circles. And he's like, no, I keep getting bitter bugs and stuff. And I said, yeah, it's RNG. You just have to keep clicking on it until you get an immortal moth. And that was when he was like, oh man, this sucks. He's like, I hate this. I don't like anything about this. And I was like, I'm sorry, so there was that. And then halfway through the quest, I'm nearly done. I've nearly found all my immortal moths, and we're telling each other like what zones they're in, where I'm having better luck with RNG, that sort of thing. We're kind of like just comparing notes. Then he, in the quest, he's like, my bug net's broke. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, all of my bug net's broke. And I'm like, oh shit, that's bad. And he's like, yeah, it's bad. He's like, all the bug nets are broke. And he's like, now what do I do? I can't complete the quest. They haven't given me any more, and there's no merchant here. I can't buy any of these bug nets. And he was starting to get freaking furious at this mechanic. Like, his rage knew no bounds. So anyways, he was just like, I can't finish this quest. He's like, I don't know. He's like, how do I do this? Well, because I had messed with crafting before we actually got into the missions, I was like, oh, that's easy. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, oh, you just have to craft a new bug net. And he went, he's like, how the hell do I do that? And so I told him how to go into the crafting list. And he's like, well, I need these ingredients. And I was like, yeah. Or he's like, I need ingredients, but it won't tell me because I've never made one before. And so then I had to go into my crafting menu, and I was like, oh, you need ivy and something else. And he was like, well, where do I find that? So then I decided to take a break from my mission to go help figure out where ivy could be located and where he could find this other stuff. And then I was like, oh, here it is, this is where it is. This is where you can find it. and he ended up having to craft the bug nets, which sometimes it would succeed, sometimes it would fail. He had to craft enough bug nets. He had to gather enough stuff to craft enough bug nets to complete his mission. And it took him so long to finish that mission. He spent more time gathering materials, or trying to, so that he could craft the nets. And he was so done with it by the end of the mission. He was like, this is stupid. He's like, I hate this. I don't want to do it anymore. And so we kind of gave up on playing for a little bit. But we would go back and we'd play more Generations Ultimate later. And it was definitely an experience, the times that we did. But honestly, I can't really think of anything that I would consider too, quote-unquote, memorable. The first time that we did online play, literally the people that we were teamed up with, they were absolutely carrying us, because we were still trying to figure out what we were doing, and we were still both HR1. So the quests were kind of like, they were super low ranked, and we were still trying to figure out like what weapons we liked, how to use them, the hunter arts and all that. So that was a bit of an experience. The second time we did online play, we were actually like just trying to do stuff on our own. We were doing a lot better now because we were a lot more comfortable with the game. And then that's when we ended up getting to HR2. We had to fight a monster called Blaganga twice, and that fight, it's basically Ice Rajang, and the fact that that's your urgent quest to move from HR1 to HR2 shows just how punishing I think older monster hunters are. So yeah, it was pretty ridiculous, but we did make it through. We made it into HR2, and it really wasn't that bad. I really wish that there was more instances of, I guess, just Monster Hunter being memorable. I think the only other thing that's memorable to me is some like the harder platforming I had to do. So on the Switch version, when I was still trying to get all the relic records, definitely trying to get some of the relic records, especially in the Frost Islands, was very, very challenging, just due to the nature of the platforming and how the platforming functions using the wire bugs and the stamina. So it was a lot more, I guess, it took a lot more like planning and strategizing than I originally imagined it would. But definitely some of the best memories I have is when I would do like some of the really hard platforming, and then I would finally get that relic record, and then I'm like, you know, I'm just sitting there like, yes, I finally got it, you know. But yeah, I wish that there was more moments I could think of where I had done something that was memorable in Monster Hunter, but I mean, really it's just more the funny stories that I can think of, where it's either super bad or it's just super, super funny and just super, super, like, you know, painful. Painful to think about, and or just hilarious to think about. I wasn't really sure how to answer this question, only because, I guess it really just varies, and I don't know, it's such a vague sort of question. There are so many goals and things to do in Monster Hunter that this is just one of those that, again, I just really wasn't sure how to answer. My personal goals in Monster Hunter really just does depend on the game. Obviously in the Switch version, you know, I wanted to beat it, and after I had beaten it, I really just wanted to make sure that I was just happy with my character. And what I mean by that is I wanted to make sure that she looked the way I wanted her to look, so I had the armor that I wanted to like show off, you know, I had a glam that I was happy with, you know, a fit that I liked, and then on top of that, I really just wanted to make sure that I had succeeded in getting whatever weapon it was that I wanted. You know, whether it's a good weapon or a bad weapon, if I really liked the look of it, my goal was that at least I would have that weapon for myself. I guess if you consider what my other goals were, my other goal was obviously collecting all the relic records. I absolutely adore them, and I love them, and so yeah, my goal was definitely to collect every single one of them, which I did succeed in doing. And there were a few, like, collectibles from, like, the lottery and stuff to decorate the house with that I really wanted as well. So, I had small goals here and there, but I wouldn't say I had any, like, ultimate goal other than just beating the game, which I succeeded in doing for both the main game and the DLC. for the app for Monster Hunter Now, which nobody really asked me about, which, you know, I kind of do want to talk about it more, but I'm probably just going to do a review video for it, so I'm not too worried about all of that. But yeah, definitely what I when it comes to the app, honestly, my goal is just to play it I have no goals. I guess right now my goal is that I want a full set of Rathian armor that is upgraded at least to level 4, since I still have not gotten anything to like level 5, save for like one Zinogre helmet or whatever. But yeah, I really just want the full set of Rathian armor, because right now I feel like Rathian armor is like just the better armor for me personally. So I want the whole Rathian set, so I've been making it a point to hunt down Rathian, like choose Rathian as my designated monster that my Palico will hunt down so that I can fight it more often. But now they have introduced Magnum Mallow, so my goal right now is I really do want the Magnum Mallow gun lance, because I really want a weapon with a blast element, so that's my goal there. In Monster Hunter in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, my goal right now is just to do the solo play. I really want to make it through the solo play before I get back into the online play. The communities lately have kind of been dwindling down. I don't know if it's just because school's back in session or whatever, or summer's coming to an end or whatever, but I haven't really noticed a lot of people on playing when I am playing, and that's been kind of distressing. So it is really just one of those things where I want to do the solo play, and people have told me I really should just grind for what I can in the online hub, but I don't know, I feel like there's something so cheesy about grinding all this good stuff before you finish the solo play, and so I'm trying to get as far as I can in the solo play, and then after I do that, I really just want to continue with the hub stuff. But right now I'm just trying to work through all the little missions that I have. I'm trying to work through, you know, just really just trying to up my village rank, because I guess it goes all the way up to 10. I'm really trying to finish that, or at least get my first set of credits. Once I get the first set of credits of the game, I don't know if there's multiples or not, but if I get one set of credits, then I'll just probably go with some online stuff for a while, grind for specific loadouts and stuff, and then I'll probably go back to the solo play, and then kind of continue from there. With Rise on the PC, honestly, my goal is just to keep grinding so that I can actually just continue the story for you guys, and I can show you all the new monsters that are there. I really want to continue the story, kind of just keep things going on that front, and then that way you can get the full experience of Monster Hunter Rise, and then after that I'm obviously going to go into Sunbreak. The only thing is I obviously don't want to have you guys watch me doing all this grinding, just because it is pretty tedious. I mean, there's really just not a lot to it that's super fascinating. So yeah, that's really just my goals right now. As far as World and Monster Hunter Stories 2, my goals are really simple. I want to record them for YouTube. You will be experiencing them with me as I am experiencing them for the first time. So I feel like it's going to be a lot better of an experience as Rise, because with Rise I'm like, I've already fought all these monsters, I've already done the story before, so there's really just not a lot of like new content that you guys are experiencing with me. So this will definitely be something that's just a lot better, I think, whenever I do finally play World and I do finally play Monster Hunter Stories, since it is so different. But the thing with Rise is we still have a lot of time. We still have a long ways to go. We are 12 videos in. We haven't even fought the main bosses. We've only gotten the one set of credits. We still have to get the second and third set of credits for freaking the vanilla game, and then after that we have to grind our way up until we're at the Sunbreak level. And then once we're at the Sunbreak level, then that opens up a whole new can of worms. So I mean, I could see our Monster Hunter Rise series being like 50 videos long, because there is just so much content to go through. So my goal, honestly, is just to keep grinding so that I can get the weapons, so that I can continue playing for you guys. The only problem is because we are now focused on the HUD quest, or the hub quests, I am kind of worried, just because I want to play with others. But finding others to play with can kind of be hard at times, and I never know how they're going to conduct themselves, which can kind of make it hard for recording. And naturally, I want to have an experience where I'm talking to you guys as I'm playing, just to keep things like interesting. But I feel like if I'm watching other people, then that'll be really hard. So I don't know whether or not I should just do the hub quests solo up until a certain point, or if I should just like have a bunch of randos, like open up a lobby, have randos with me, and kind of just do as I was doing before. So I've kind of been struggling on that end. Otherwise I would be doing high rank content. Right now I'm just trying to do all the low rank content so that I can get some of my weapons started, and then once I have those different elemental weapons started, then we can get into the crazier content. But it's really all I have for goals right now. It's nothing too impressive or expansive. It's pretty straightforward. So, but yeah, that is all the questions that I got. It was 11 questions, and obviously it gave us a lot to talk about and a lot for me to think about. It also let me use this footage of me grinding so that you can see like these different monsters and stuff as I was going through low rank, even though you've seen them before. So it gave me a good excuse to use this footage. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me. Leave a like if you like these videos. Actually, leave a like if you want to see more Monster Hunter Rise. I don't really think I'm going to be doing a lot of these types of videos where I'm just going to be talking about random stuff or doing a Q&A. I wouldn't mind doing more Q&As, but I just don't think you guys would really find me that interesting in doing a Q&A. Although some people do say they like hearing me talk. I don't like hearing me talk, so I don't know how y'all stand it. But yeah, so if you like Monster Hunter Rise, like this video, I will be back to doing that really soon. I also have to get back to Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster as well. I have not forgotten about it. It's just my hyperfixation with Monster Hunter has kind of consumed my life. Anyways, down below, feel free to leave me a comment where you answer some of these questions yourself. Obviously, tell me about your favorite monsters, your least favorite monsters. Tell me what you want out of Rise, I mean not Rise, tell me what you want out of Wilds, and what things from Rise you want to stick around and what you want them to implement in Wilds. You know, tell me about your favorite NPCs and your favorite, locations, just different things like that. What advice would you give new Monster Hunter players? And likewise, what do you think is a great introduction to the series? If you say Monster Hunter 1 or if you say Freedom Unite, I'm going to know you are a filthy liar and that you are an absolute, like, narcissist. That you want to do that to those poor souls. But yeah, also I'm always looking for friends on Monster Hunter now, so if you want to add me on there, just let me know and I'll send you my friend code. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching these videos. Thank you for all your support on this channel, and as always, I will see you all in the next video. Alright, ciao you guys.